Hi there everyone, welcome to Pour Painting with Ron. I hope you've been really well since the last time we saw each other. Well, today we're going to be doing a painting I haven't done for a little while, and it's one of my favourite ones to do. It's a bloom pour painting. So if you haven't seen one before, the method that I use is perhaps the easiest way to do a bloom painting. So if you're inspired by the video today, you might like to have a go in the week to come. Well, today, if I seem a little bit distracted, I've got a visitor with me today who's watching me, and I'm not used to having an audience in the background. So if I sound a bit weird or look a bit weird, you know why. There's someone there laughing at me. But anyway, the canvas I'm going to use today is this 45 centimeter square thick edge canvas. And as usual, I've got painter's tape on the back to protect the back and some giant push pins to keep the painting off the surface of the table. Now I've made sure my canvas is nice and tight so my paint doesn't pool in the middle, and I've made sure it's level too so the paint doesn't slide off to one side while it's drying, which is never a good thing to happen. Well, if you haven't done a bloom painting before, the ingredients are quite a bit different to any other normal pour painting you may do. We need a pillow layer in the background, and that's just simply a layer of paint for the other colours to slide on. So I'm using just an ordinary water-based acrylic low sheen wall paint. I use the British Paints brand. So just a white one. You don't have to use white. Sometimes I use black, but white is good enough. Then on top of that layer, we have the colour layer. Now the colours I'm using today are all highly pigmented Jo Sonja's colours. And I'm using these colours today. I'm using their aqua, their, green light, and some purple, some ultramarine blue, some of their rich gold, and some pine green. Interesting colour combination. Should look really nice. Now the pouring medium that we mix the colour into is a mix of varnish and again house paint. So I'm using Jo Sonja's gloss polyurethane water-based varnish and some untinted house paint. Now you tell it's untinted because it says so on the bottom of the can. It's the paint you get before they put the colour in. And I get the extra bright variety. It keeps the colour pretty true. Now we use 3 parts of the paint to 2 parts of the varnish to make our pouring medium, and then we mix 2 parts pouring medium with 1 part paint to get the paint that we're going to use. That's the colour layer, and then our swiping layer over the top to get our lovely lacing effects are a combination of acrylic paint and Floetrol. So the brand of paint I use is the Amsterdam paint. I forgot to put it on my table, but that's the brand I use. Use Amsterdam paint. You can use any colour you like, but I'm using their titanium white today. I'm using 1 part of that to 2 parts of the Floetrol. Clear as mud? You'll see how it all comes together in a little bit. Let's get started. Righto, so we're ready to go. I've got the canvas here. The shape looks a bit odd just because of the way the camera is angled, but believe me, it is a square canvas. As I said, nice and tight. So the first step is to put the pillow layer of paint on. So don't be shocked at how much paint we use. You do want enough to stretch out your colours when you spin out your painting. So we pour it in the centre, try to get sort of like a square shape because it's a square canvas. How are we going? Maybe a touch more. There we go. That's our pillow layer. So put it in the more or less in the center. And before I put the colour on, I'll just blowtorch it a bit to pop a few air bubbles. You'll never pop all of them, but if you can get rid of some of them, it'll stop a lot of white spots happening in your finished painting when the bubbles pop through your colour layer. But you don't want to burn the painting. Okay, now the colour layer, it won't look like anything interesting when we put the colours on, but the magic happens when we swipe and spin out the painting. Now I'll start with my dark colour first. Oops, I'm just throwing paint everywhere. So I'll start off with purple first, and I'll do a general square shape. That's sort of in the middle, I think. I'll put some little bunny ears out this way. And then I'll fill in the middle. And then we'll do blue next. You wonder how this will ever turn out into a nice painting, but they usually work. Don't be too stingy with the paint, otherwise when you spread it out, you'll get the white showing through. So too much is better than not enough. And then we've got the aqua. And I'll do the pine green. I haven't used this colour combination before. We'll see how that turns out. And some of the light green. Like so. And then I'll finish off with the gold. Okay, so that's my colour layer. Then the next step is to do some swiping to create our cells. Well, they're not really cells, it's sort of like a lacing effect that the Floetrol and Amsterdam paint do to the varnish in the paint layer underneath. Yes, I tipped over my cup of paint before, so I've got white paint everywhere now, but never mind. Just get this little bit of stuff out of the painting. Okay, to do the swiping, I just use plain playing cards. You can use the long side or the short side. I start with the long side, and then I get my really messy Floetrol Amsterdam paint mix, and I just pour it on this wall scraper, and then I dip in my card to get a nice layer like so, and then I find the middle of my painting and I press just hard enough to drag the colour layer with the other layer. If you press too hard, you'll swipe all your colour off, or you press it all into your pillow layer, which you don't want to do. Clean off the card and then do it again. Don't worry too much about the edges. because you spin them all off your canvas later. So I'm just concerned about the middle part of my painting. Like so. Now, have a few playing cards because they get grotty pretty quick. I'll discard this one and get a new one. Now I'm not going right to the middle this time. I'll start here and I'll go out to the corner. Like so. I'm doing it at about a 45-degree angle. So, like so. And now I'll use the short end of the card as my spots are getting smaller now. Like so. I didn't think I did that hard enough. I'll do that again. You can swipe again, but don't do it more than twice, or you'll get mud because all your colours will mix together. Brown isn't a terribly good look unless you're going for brown. Yeah. So you just work your way around. I might just do this bit here. I don't think I swiped very well. So you do have to give your painting time for the reaction to happen before you spin out your painting. Well, that'll do, I suppose. How are we going? A few little touch-ups. We are almost done. Okay, I think we're done with the swiping. Now, the last thing I want to do is to get a paint skewer and just run it through randomly, the painting, to create some interesting patterns or designs, like spider legs through the painting. Now I'm not going right into the center. I'll go off center, and I'll just do some random wiggly lines through it. They'll create some interest in the painting. And I'll do one this way, like so. How are we looking? Maybe like so. Now, while I let this sit for a minute or two, I'll just go and wash my paint palette, and then we'll be back and we'll spin out the painting and see what we end up with. Okay, so if you haven't seen this before, this is my spinning pool. I just used a normal child's wading blow-up swimming pool. You can use a cardboard box, anything you like to collect the paint that flings off your canvas. Now underneath this board I have a Lazy Susan, something that spins really well, cake decorator, or a banding wheel that you use for ceramics. Just underneath this board, because my canvases are a bit larger, I just stuck this board on the top with some double-sided painter's tape to hold the painting in place so I don't spin it off the pool. Now I'll just get my painting, we'll spin it out, and we'll see the magic happen. So I'll bring it over without dropping the paint everywhere. Now I put it on and I'll just spin it slowly, keep my eye on the center. So see if we're right. I think we're about right. Then I'll give it a slow spin just to see where the paint goes. Okay, I can spin a bit faster now. How are we looking? Oh yes, not too bad. I don't have to spin it much more. I'll spin a little bit more. Until I'm happy with what I got. Oh yes, it looks reasonably interesting, I think. Yes, for some reason I got really large bits of colour in the middle this time. Wasn't particularly the look I was wanting. But I won't spin anymore. But the colour combination is really pretty. Lovely. I'll just make sure my corners and everything are covered. They are. Cool. Often the bits on the board look really nice too. Now I'll just let this drip for a little bit and then I'll put it back up on the table and I'll bring you in for a closer look. Okay, I've got the camera above my head. Hopefully you can see the painting. I'll just bring you down for a closer look. Yeah, I don't particularly like these huge cells we got in the middle. Perhaps I used too much or didn't swipe well enough in the middle to begin with. to create lots of lacing. But we've certainly got some interesting effects happening. I think the colour combination is lovely. The gold will be nice too, it'll go nice and shimmery once the painting dries. So what did you think of that one? I think it turned out really well. If you haven't tried bloom paintings before, do give them a go. They're really quite easy, particularly the technique that I use. Some people use a blow dryer, which tends to get a bit more difficult, but swiping with a card works really, really well. Well, we've come to the end of the video, I'm afraid. It's time for me to clean up, which is always the yuckiest thing to do. As usual, if you enjoyed what you saw today, please take a moment to press the like button. And if you'd like to see more of my videos, please take a moment to subscribe and press the little notification bell. Well, I hope you had a good time today, and I hope you have a really good week ahead, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. In the meantime, happy painting.